RuneScape, a game that has touched so many lives. A phenomenon of the 2000s, and an early pioneer of the MMORPG genre that continues to capture the hearts of millions of players to this day. A game now over 20 years in the making. It goes without saying, this world and its development is full of fascinating history, and there's no shortage of great videos documenting and exploring that. So this is simply my 15-year journey with the game. 15 years so far. It's a tale not all that uncommon, truthfully, coming back to the game over the years. You never really quit RuneScape. I missed out on the earliest days of the game by nature of being, well, 4. By the time I was of the grade school age where RuneScape was the talk of the playground, I was 9, and I made an account on November 10th, 2006. It was an absolute dream come true for 9-year-old me, having before been spending my time playing and replaying ad nauseum all the popular Flash games of the day, or the handful of CD games I had. Those were all very fun in their own right, but this was different. My first real exposure to a massively multiplayer game, a complex world in which I could immerse myself, explore, train up skills, earn more money, build up a character in any way I felt. And those accomplishments had a real sense of permanence. Your account was an extension of you as you played alongside and competed with your friends and everyone else in the game. You were as cool as the amount of time you put in. With my personality type, what a recipe for addiction that was. Naturally, I went around doing all the basic things. Many cows and goblins met their end, sheep were sheared, trees chopped, shrimp caught, sold everything to the good old general store for hardly any money, because there was no grand exchange to easily sell to players, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I loved every second of it. I remember all my favorite places. The cooking guild. I was so proud to get in there, and it had all the ingredients to make apple pies. I was addicted to making apple pies for some reason. Nearby, there were those hill giants. Spent plenty of time training down there, exploring the Varrock sewers, popping up in that bear cage, and without a doubt, the Karamja dock, fishing for those lobsters and swordfish. Maybe what I spent the most time doing, fishing and woodcutting. I guess I was a gathering fan, because it felt like free money. No overhead, no supplies, just collecting stuff up and selling it off, while training those skills. Very satisfying. As you can tell if you played, I was never anything close to efficient. That thought never crossed my mind. I was having fun, questing and making money in any which way. I used to pick up the runes that spawned in places. I can't believe they'd just leave these lying around. It's as if, as a kid, the concept of time is money isn't fully developed. It feels like time isn't a factor. I've got infinite time. It's that childlike, worry-free attitude that I hope everyone got to experience at some point. No real responsibility on your shoulders, only the freedom to explore and play without the stress of thinking about what you need to be doing or the time passing you by. You can never recapture that. Such is life. Also, even if I wanted tips, it isn't like I could hop over to the infinitely useful wiki or pull up thousands of well-produced video guides for every aspect of the game. It's 2006. There were a handful of people with their unregistered Hypercam 2s and scattered forums of people still discussing if the scimitar is really the best DPS. So I never made that much progress. The thought of dropping my fish to train faster was out of the question. I had to walk all the way back to the bank every time. Again, if you know the game, you've maybe gathered from what I've described, I was only ever a free-to-play player, never a paid member, which would have unlocked many more skills, quests, and much more of the map. I remember walking up to that Karamja fence, staring at the town that lay beyond, wondering what went on there, through the gate, dreaming about it. Now, my parents were never going to be on board with paying a subscription that would have me even more desperate to spend time on the computer. The screen time was very limited, so I already didn't get to grind away at my skills nearly as much as I wanted. I would have been on there every waking hour if that were an option, if my parents weren't encouraging me to live a balanced life. Yeah, I'm gonna say that was good parenting. My parents being the real MVPs of this story. Who knows how things might have been different. I don't think I would have wasted away and accomplished nothing. Despite the addictive element, it didn't make me lose sight of real life. I think I would have found my way down a similar path. Maybe I would have ended up making a RuneScape channel instead, and spent a whole lot less time playing outside. Well, thankfully I did have a more balanced childhood, and it made those moments I could play the game even more precious. It also got me out of the house in the morning. Imagine wanting to wake up at 6:30 and get ready quickly so you could go to school an hour early to sit in the computer room with your friends on RuneScape. What a time to be alive. The fact that it was a simple browser-based Java client must have been part of how widely it spread. You could pop it open at school on Miniclip or Addicting Games or wherever. Fewer things were blocked back then. I remember when the Grand Exchange was added, November of 2007, a year after I started, which only amplified how addicting it was to make money, and had me and a million other 10-year-olds developing an interest in markets at an early age. Yes, the herb index is down 4 points today. It does seem due for a correction. That update is what had me go to spending most of my time chopping those yew trees nearby, selling them off. Not like I ever did any good moneymakers. I figured the higher level something took, the more valuable it would surely be. Yeah, no, but it was fun. Seeing that sell bar go green, hearing the jingle that something sold, pure dopamine. The music of this game is incredible. For starters, it holds world records for being easily the largest soundtrack of any game, but quantity doesn't mean a lack of quality here. For a big collection of old-school sounding MIDI files, there's no shortage of incredibly catchy tunes in this game, and I know the power of nostalgia can make anything sound good over time, but I loved them back then too. Medieval was a favorite of mine. I even tried to learn it on the piano. I still have the sheet music I printed out way back then. Ultimately though, nostalgia isn't something I can communicate through words. Either these sounds and PNGs make you smile, or they don't. I had moved schools that year, and gradually fell out of contact with the people I knew who played the game. In fact, the social aspect of RuneScape was the only real way I kept in touch, but that declined as well. The new friends I got to know were never into it, and I was introduced to a different type of game.
Team deathmatch.
The rest is history there, leading to what I'm doing now over a decade later, but that's a story for another time. Without the friendly competition of playing alongside people, there was less incentive to keep grinding away, and since there was no membership on my horizon, I had done most of what you could do in free-to-play. Trained the skills I liked, did every free quest, the ultimate being Dragon Slayer, earning the right to wear that rune plate body. I was so proud of my full rune set, I wore it everywhere, didn't know anything about the weight mechanic affecting my run energy of course. There was also no option to get membership through in-game wealth like there is now through buying a bond. That would have definitely multiplied my addiction, but nope. All that combined and the interest faded. One of the last things I remember doing was the 2008 Easter event, collecting chocolate and claiming my Chocatress cape, the only free-to-play cape that had an emote at the time, which I thought was super cool. But then at some point, shortly after that, I stopped logging in. I was completely ignorant to the most infamous, controversial updates that had happened around that time and would follow: the death of the wilderness and free trade, the graphical updates, skills getting easier training methods over time, the dreaded evolution of combat completely overhauling the system people were used to, adding tons of abilities, and the onset of microtransactions. All things that caused many people to leave the game. I had no idea. I was already gone. Many years passed. I stopped thinking about the game. I figured RuneScape wouldn't last forever. All games have a lifespan. One day I'd find out they shut down the servers, and that would be a bummer. But that didn't happen. At some point, maybe about 5 years later, call it 2013, I was somehow reminded about RuneScape. Thought, wow, what a blast from the past. I wonder if I can still log in. I want to see my old account. Well, I tried to do that, and after a few tries, I amazingly was able to log in. But I found myself on Tutorial Island, the beginning of the game. I think I played through it to make sure there wasn't some bug with needing to replay the tutorial, but yep, my stuff wasn't there. I figured they must have done a server wipe at some point, and I was disappointed that I thought I'd never see my old account again. That's too bad, but I didn't stick around to give it a second thought or do any research. Black Ops 2 was out, and I was busy making horrible videos about it. My YouTube channel hobby took up all my spare time and thought outside school, so I didn't figure out that my account was actually still there, waiting. If only I had logged into RuneScape 3 to see it. I can only assume the reason I was reminded of the game was the hype generated by the release of Old School RuneScape, a relaunch of an old snapshot of the game with a clean slate for all the people wanting to relive it and who were dissatisfied by the route the main game had taken. Well, that 2007 version was exactly what I recognized as RuneScape, so I must have logged into an old school server and not known that my account was still alive. I just looked in the wrong place. It was a very nostalgic experience to walk around a bit, but I wasn't about to get back into it from scratch. Another 3 years went by. It was early 2016. This time, I was talking to someone I met who did play RuneScape, and it came up that he still played it now and then, on his original account from back in the day. The ones I thought didn't exist anymore. Seems pretty stupid, I know. Apparently, I really didn't bother to look into it. So at long last, after 8 years, I found and logged into my original account once again. Where the hell am I? I've never been to Berthorpe. This was a members area, I think. And what happened to my armor? And what are these? What is any of this? It turns out a lot can change in 8 years. But it was the same account I was attached to, with the stats I was so... proud of? I thought I was quite the fisherman and lumberman. Those really ain't that high. For context, the XP curve to maxing a skill at 99 and then beyond to 120 is very exponential. Everyone knows 92 is halfway to 99. You typically unlock some faster training methods, but still, really not exactly as impressive as I hoped. Well, I wanted to walk around, explore the familiar yet unfamiliar place I used to spend so much time. I expected to hear the music I knew and loved, but there was no longer a setting for location-based music. That was too bad. I wanted to hear Autumn Voyage as I walked the road to Varrock. Many of the original tracks had since been remastered with a live orchestra though, and those can be truly beautiful to listen to. There's so much emotion in them, thinking about the journey this game has had. Without a doubt, some of my favorite video game music there is. On my way to Varrock, I vividly remember I picked a potato, which was... Wait, 900 GP? Excuse me, just gonna have to grab a full inventory of these. What about a cabbage? It's the same, of course, for a cabbage. Yuck. Okay, the potato was actually only around 300 in 2016, but the reaction was the same. In my head, they were worth nothing. Going to look at my bank was a rather depressing sight. My ultimate achievement being 400-something K, sadly not invested in any items. I wasn't exactly thinking about protecting myself from inflation. So somehow, from a year and a half or so of loving this game back in the day, I achieved stats that might take a day or two, and a level of wealth that literally takes a couple seconds, with the only unique, discontinued event type items I had not being tradable ones. Well, that's unfortunate. Funny how I could have such a strong attachment to a game I clearly sucked at and hardly progressed in. But the real XP is the fun you had along the way, right? It was then that I found out about how you could now pay for membership with in-game money, and that sounded like a really fun thing to try. At this point I was an adult who could have just paid for it, but that's no fun, and I'm very cheap. After doing plenty of exploring the world I used to know and trying out some of the member skills you could now level to 5 as a free player, this time I had half a brain and I used the internet to find some good ways to make money. I started up a massive smithing grind using the portable forges back when those were a thing, and over many days I got myself up to 85 smithing to be able to smelt rune bars, which was some great free-to-play money. Pretty bad XP. But then I needed the coal bag from the dungeoneering skill to make it more AFK, and this marks the first point in time that I have actual footage of, not dramatic recreations. I have these old boring live streams of me rediscovering the world, going to get that coal bag, apparently I was flipping bread, I remember that had a crazy margin, manipulating the bread market, hell yeah. Then a couple weeks of smelting later, I was finally able to buy up some bonds for both me and a friend whom I was pulling in to try the game, even though he didn't have the nostalgia from playing it before and was too busy to really get into the grind. He humored me for a bit, always fun to get someone into something. Well, I went to take my very first steps as a member, at long last, opening the Karamja Gate, and walking through the town I always wondered about. I mean, it's just Brimhaven, nothing that exciting. And yet, it was magical, going around activating all these new lodestones, walking through completely alien areas, crossing White Wolf Mountain to arrive in Catherby, heading down the road to Ardy, going back and crossing over to Cannabis, and visiting Port Fatasmus, that is how you say that, being confused about why Prith is blank, and how to get to the Elven lands of Taranwyn, and other things that sound disgustingly lame and nerdy. I was finally back to RuneScape, having fun discovering what was new. As for why I didn't play old school instead, I mainly liked the idea of continuing what I started. Even though it truly wasn't a ton of progress, this account was what I cared about. And most of the changes were okay with me, the MTX being the clear worst offender, but as for the new combat, I skipped over the annoying version where you had to manually cast every ability. I came back to the Revolution mode, which automatically uses them, and I was never about PvP, so it didn't bother me. I got right back into slowly tackling some of the hundreds of quests I had missed, training various things, realizing how much easier some things had become. Wait, firemaking is fully AFK now? A few weeks later I got my first couple 99s, something I never thought I'd do, but they were pretty easy skills now. 99 firemaking, lighting up some logs in the old-fashioned way, and cooking with a good old shrimp on the fire. That was a fun summer of catching up with the game and picking up where I left off. Before too long though, I started to get more interested in other things. I was still all about making YouTube stuff and was going into year 2 of university. Really didn't have time to obsess about RuneScape. And that kicked off the relationship I currently have with the game. I put it down for a varying number of months, sometimes going a year and a half, not even thinking about opening it. Then there'd be something to get me to want to come back. Maybe news of an interesting update, but often it was around the time of studying for final exams. Video game soundtracks are great studying music, gotta have some Modern Warfare 2 going, some Pokemon games, and then I'd come across some old RuneScape tunes, bringing back that feeling of freedom from all responsibility. In a final exam season, escapism sounds pretty great, and I'd promised myself that after getting through it all, I'd get my affairs in order and take a little vacation, brush off the world for 2 weeks, and go live in RuneScape. I say 2 weeks because that's the amount of membership you get from a bind. That was another reason I picked up the game for only small bits at a time. I felt a responsibility to make the absolute most of being a member, so those phases would come and go whenever I felt I could truly set aside the time. If I ever felt like making some money without committing to membership, I'd go back to my smithing. I eventually smelted rune bars all the way to 99, which is a lot of bars, and then I could smith rune 2 handles for a similar profit and way more XP. I got to around 50 million smithing XP only training in free to play. Pretty funny. Then there was the smithing rework that kinda ruined that. But now I can make rune dart tips for similar money and much more AFK, but awful XP. A decent trade-off, I suppose. I do love the AFK. I've finally done it. Over 1 million dart tips. Who says you can't make money in free to play? So the years went by like that, with short RuneScape phases here and there, hopping on the laptop between classes sometimes, gradually getting more 99s. There's another callback. I had to go get the 99 woodcutting on those old yew trees. It's the summer of 2020 now, just came off another entire year of not touching the game. I just happened to check in, and it was exactly 5,000 days since the start of it all. Cool coincidence. There's always an endless amount of things to do whenever I come back. I find some item or ability I want to go for to help boost XP rates in some way, like going through and collecting all the skilling outfits and elite outfits. Just a mind-boggling amount of boosts you can go for. This game's wiki is an incredibly well-organized wealth of information. Looking stuff up on there to optimize is kinda half the game. In this example here, I wanted to get the Earn Enhancer to give me 25% more XP for using the skilling urns, things that give you some bonus XP while training certain skills. So okay, that requires Nomad's Elegy, gotta do a massive chain of questing to get there. Do this weird minigame, okay. Oh no, it's Zamorak. That's done. Helping the Void Knights with something? All done. Gotta do the Soul Wars demo. Rune Memories time. Kinda crazy, not gonna lie. Void Dance, completed. Have to do the tutorial for some chess minigame thing. More questing. Oh, here's that chess thing I had to learn. Okay, thank God, that was actually not easy. What is that turtle doing? What the hell is going on? Pest Queen. Easy. That's done. Look at me, I'm a goblin. I finally found out how to wear goblin mail. This is massive. And that's done. Okay, stop talking, Zanik. I get it. Yep, this is a cool area. Gotta fight some goblin dudes. Now the big guy. No problem, I'm way too cool. It sorta helps that I'm overleveled because I procrastinated quests for a long time. Yuck! This Zanik character has had so many graphical overhauls over the years. This one wasn't it. Done! I had to make a fake quest for some kid? Cool. Well, this is crazy. Haha, take that, old woman. Oh no, it's level 56. There we go. Nomad's Requiem now, getting there. Yep. Okay, this is a pretty badass place. Some crazy battle, I gotta command people. Jesus Christ, what? We gotta fight Nomad again. Several times, in fact. And control all the other characters to defeat the big soul creature. I'm just here for my Earn thing. Yeah, by the time this quest came out, they fixed up Zanik a little bit. It is done. Only took a few days. Now I can research and make my Earn Enhancer. Wasn't that worth it? I only have 2 pieces of the farming outfit. How do I get the rest of that? Ah, the cabbage face punch minigame, eh? Well, I thought I was joking, but I did actually go learn Cabbage Face Punch. Gotta have all the XP boosting outfits. There are hundreds of little upgrades and goals like that you don't have to do, but it's the min-maxer's dream. Next I needed a bunch more questing to unlock a room to more efficiently train thieving through safecracking in Zamorigal's fort. That was a very lore-heavy quest as well. I do study the lore, don't worry. After that, I needed to do these clue scrolls that kept stacking up. They're like rare scavenger hunts you can collect that are pretty great money, but take time and focus to do. Well, to make that faster, I needed to get the treasure totem on Anachronia, the new content dinosaur island place I hadn't visited yet. Had to go there, set up the base camp, get each totem piece from a variety of different activities, pull up a bunch of Zygamites, but then I needed the bladed dive ability to get better at the agility course. Well, gotta go do the Shattered Worlds minigame to unlock that. Okay, back to the totems now. Grind out Big Game Hunter for a while, skilling boss type thing. At long last, after another few days, I can set up my totem of treasure to make the clue scrolls a little bit faster. Now to spend a whole day doing those. All for the payoff of opening them, get lots of money, chance at a big ticket item, and work towards owning the clue scroll outfit to make them even easier to do in the future. I think you get the idea, the loop. I'm always bookmarking wiki pages, the to-do list just keeps growing, but I had to stop sidetracking myself in game, and consequently, in this video, the goal was maxing. 99 in every skill. It was getting very close, only had a few left. I took care of Hunter, and then Slayer. What is this dude doing? You disassembling my stuff? And finally, a few days later, the thieving. Don't know why I left that to the end, it's pretty fast. I was, at long last. Wait, they just added archaeology. Not maxed yet. Okay, gotta go train a new skill real quick. But this membership's over and I have other things to do, so I'll have to pick that up another time.
Many months later.
115 smithing and free to play though. Why am I like this? A little while later, I put in another 2 weeks, got to 85 archaeology, then it was COD season, so it took until now, 2021, to finally come back again, to take advantage of one of their big double XP events. They're a much bigger deal for RuneScape than something like COD, because it can have a huge effect on the economy. Well, I needed to make that final archaeology push. Truthfully, I could have finished it off very quickly, but at that point I was delaying it on purpose while putting everything together to work on this video that I decided would be fun to make about it all. But there's 98 from those passive research teams. I think it's finally time. I only need to put this lamp into archaeology and be done. What do you know? Nothing's different. Hope I made you proud, 9-year-old me. Yeah, you probably thought you were gonna be awesome and successful, but what you got was maxing in RuneScape. That's way better. Who am I kidding? I never thought that. This is pretty much the dream. I bet my parents are proud too.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Mom, I just needed to let you know that I maxed my RuneScape account. Are you proud of me?
Well, that's great news. Of course I'm proud of you.
Thank you, thank
Took
you.
you long enough.
Yes, thank you very much. Very big deal, very big life accomplishment.
So what does that mean? The game's over?
Well, I gotta go buy my cape. Truthfully, maxing an account in EasyScape isn't even that big of a deal these days, but it is fun to think about this being 15 years in the making. Technically 14.5 years. Clickbaited, sorry. It is funny that there must be a few people watching younger than this RuneScape account. Well, maybe not still watching. If you don't have any RuneScape nostalgia, maybe you don't want to hear me talk about my boomer game for half an hour. Here we are at the Max Guild. Apparently it's been a while since I unfurled any of these banners. Well, what now is always the question. Can finally play the game, as the saying goes, except the grind kind of is the game. Haha, numbers go up. Do I go for some 120s then? 200 mil XP all skills? The completionist capes? Well, no, I doubt it. Probably not. Maybe. Okay, probably. Jokes aside, I don't actually plan on it, but give it enough time, anything's possible. If you're curious, I have 222 days played. A cool 5,300 hours. Easily more than I've played every COD combined, but I mean those are baby numbers when it comes to RuneScape. It is a little different comparing actively playing an FPS game to the many semi-idle methods where I just need to interact every 5 minutes to not get kicked. Still, that's a fair amount of time. And it doesn't take that long to max. I've clearly spent a whole lot of time not being efficient, and that's okay. I've also already leveled some things way past 99. Yet, despite that 5,300 hours, there's still so much content I haven't even touched. Like all the higher level PvM and bossing, what many people would consider the point of the endgame, the reason to make money and get good gear. There are tons of bosses, all with mechanics to learn, drop logs to try to complete, the thrill of chasing the super valuable drops, and I've only killed a small handful of the easiest ones a dozen or so times. Then there are all the elite dungeons and raids for you to team up and take on, tons of minigames I never played, although most of those are dead content by now. There are 50-something quests I still have to do, I'll definitely do those. Then of course the achievement system, thousands of tasks and feats. The Master Quest Cape, look at all these lore-related mini-quests and secrets and challenges. Then those completionist capes I mentioned. Some of these items might be a quick half hour, or they might take hundreds of hours each. Then there's the trimmed version with even more intensive requirements. Just insane, and yet I've spent all my time so far only engaging with the simple loop of get XP to make more money, spend more money to get more XP, and always getting distracted by unlocks and upgrades to be able to train faster. Like, I mean, I gotta do some of the Cave Goblin tech tree to unlock the Monkey Butler. Gotta play this annoying Anima Island minigame to tune the crystal Wicked Hood one of the voices. There's a lot to do in RuneScape, if I didn't get that point across. I feel like I can't begin to express it. It's 20 whole years of content, hardly cutting any of the old stuff out, just building on it. That might feel like a bit of a barrier to entry for anyone who never played it back in the day. I'd say there's a lot to learn, but also there isn't. To get started, you just start clicking on cows and trees. Over time, you'll probably be looking up methods and guides on the wiki, going down the rabbit hole, but it's at your own pace. You never have to min-max that hard. An important point to raise when I keep emphasizing the scope of the game, having a ton of things to do doesn't mean they're worth doing. So are they?
No.
Well, that comes down to the person. I think it's expertly designed around making progression feel rewarding. That's what the game is. And so far I've talked about the quests mostly as roadblocks to certain things I want to unlock. That's sometimes true, but they can also be great experiences. Generally, this is a game that doesn't take itself very seriously. Plenty of jokes everywhere. I love when there's dialogue that references how you obviously used a quest guide and came prepared with the exact items you needed. But there can also be very serious quests. I put off doing one called The World Wakes for an absurdly long time, for no reason. It gives great rewards. I really should have done it sooner. I finally needed to get access to the superheat form prayer to help with the smelting grind. I was finally going to train as a member for once. Anyway, it is one of the most impactful lore quests in the game. It is what ends the 5th age. And for someone who's played the game for so long, it's about as emotional as a goofy point-and-click MMO game can be. Back on the topic of what now, no doubt someone will want to shill me on playing some old school instead. Well, I did plenty of that for this video, and it was fun. When I logged in, I was standing in the GE with a zombie mask. I have no memory of coming here. I think it very well could have been in 2013 when I probably logged into the wrong game and thought my account was gone. Well, I got right to grinding, because I wanted to record some B-roll for this video. I could have just stood next to the old training spots, but that's lame. So the grind began for 60 woodcutting, 50 fishing, and completing Dragon Slayer. It was a lot faster being a member and knowing what I was doing. Having that fairly simple account goal made it a lot of fun. Of course, the nostalgia is stronger. I do love all the music playing in all the right places. Ooh, Karen the Magnificent. First time visiting Zaya, some old school exclusive content right here. What is this? You can't just cut from storming the castle gates to country jig. What kind of transition is that? Oh my god. Oh no. 10 steps later, now everyone's dead. All the farm animals are dead. Nobody's dancing a country jig anymore. Why is this town so sad? It doesn't look sad. Soundtrack, I love you, but what's going on here? Naturally, the graphics aren't a problem for me. Even beyond the nostalgia, I think it's a kind of charming, simplistic art style. I can't play in the old, tiny, claustrophobic window, though. From what I watch, I think most people still do. I assume because it's more compact for quickly swapping things, but I don't do anything that serious, so full screen thanks. It is cool that the PvP is actually alive here, but I was never about that anyway. I love both games. Ultimately though, with the video goal done, I don't have any desire to start grinding old school. I would immediately think, why am I doing this? To what end? What is the plan here? I don't want to say, what's the point? I know you can say that about any game. You can say that about life. The point is what you make it. Is it fun? And I just don't feel any purpose in starting fresh, needing to redo and re-unlock tons of content. It's mainly what I said before about the fun being investing in the one account. Another big thing is how old school is simply harder, generally more active gameplay. And I get that that makes the accomplishments more prestigious, but I don't want to be clicking on trees and rocks that actively for many more 1,000 hours of my life. That sounds like work. It's also harder to want to go through that when thinking about how huge the botting problem will always be. I didn't have to look hard, like here I ran into some suspiciously named fellows. Alking behind Lumbridge? Are they trying to blend in, casting Firestrike? Weird. I know you should play for yourself and it shouldn't matter, but it kinda does. And I know both games can be botted. I assume it's only more rampant in old school because it's the more popular game and it's more profitable. They do their best to fight it, but it's not something that can ever be defeated. No doubt there'll be neural net bots that learn from people and become basically indistinguishable. It does kinda make working hard for a virtual goal less interesting when you realize you're spending your life doing what a bot could very easily do. But I guess that's a problem we're rapidly facing in real life, too. All that to say, I'd rather feel actually productive rather than only fake productive in a game. And weirdly, that's where the new RuneScape comes in. It gets the EasyScape name for a reason. With all the quality of life changes and skilling power creep over the years, there are intentionally tons of very viable, very AFK training and money-making methods, which is honestly exactly what I'm looking for, because I can have the game running and get that awesome fake productive feeling, that basic human satisfaction of accomplishing something, while also getting actual work done. Because if I were only doing the former, that gets depressing fast. It's fine when you're a kid, but not exactly fulfilling as an adult. Just a fun side pastime. So I think the increase in idle methods became this game's biggest strength to me, while also having plenty of active and engaging things that make you want to put in that AFK time. I also do like plenty of the additions. Like, I think invention is a brilliant skill, a huge economy sink making all items disassemble into components that you use for creating a bunch of devices and equipment augmentations and perks. Just a great way to keep certain items and activities valuable while also taking it out of the game, as opposed to just using the high alch price, which is where you just turn it into a certain amount of gold. Another thought for something I could do if I felt done with this is making an alt, like an Iron Man. The idea there being a type of challenge account where you can't trade or be helped by anyone. You stand alone. You have to gather and process everything yourself, making certain skills much harder. I can see the appeal, but I think I love the GE a little too much. And the same attitude applies where I would immediately think, why am I doing this? There might be a bigger appeal if I felt done with my main, but there's still a ton I want to work towards. Right now I'm filling the Slayer Codex. It's like a Pokedex for Slayer creatures. I finally started with the Ark, some big content update from ages ago that I never touched. I got a whole load of clue scrolls I've been putting off. That's a lot of money right there. I'll spare you reading out my entire ever-expanding to-do list. Not exactly great content. Maybe the one thing I think could be fun as a way to have an old school account alongside my main is doing a group Ironman. Like it sounds, it's the same idea of needing to do everything yourself, except you have a small team of friends you can trade within and do activities together with. That could definitely be fun. Just adding that aspect of working together with a few people would honestly add a lot of purpose for me compared to the solo. I could go specialize in one role to provide a bunch of supplies, get back to my fishing and woodcutting routes. That sounds like fun. Even then, I fear I'd lose interest and screw my team over. Anyway, that's a mode that was announced years ago but gets pushed back a lot. Now I think it's the first half of next year we'll maybe get some news on that. This video has probably come off overly positive because I'm reminiscing and highlighting what I enjoyed about the game. But I need to say, don't take this as a comprehensive review. There's plenty wrong with the game, plenty I could be critical about, the MTX being a massive stain on the game, the very outdated server-side movement tick system making combat and general gameplay feel clunky at times, and there's a drama calendar every year tracking what issues are always popping up every month. But the dev interaction is generally good, and of course on the old school side they have all the polls for players to have a say in the direction of the game. Overall, it's a fun community to be a part of. There's a lifetime of references and inside jokes, but it's very welcoming. It's always fun seeing new players, and it's cool how anyone who's still playing a couple decades later has a RuneScape story to tell. Probably way more interesting than mine. If you want to try the game, it's easier than ever. Both games are on Steam now, although for old school you'd want to look up the RuneLite client. It's all free, of course. It's the membership that isn't, unless you grind out some cash in-game. It's even on mobile, too. God, if I had a phone and could play RuneScape in grade school, I would have learned nothing. I wish I were getting paid for this ad I'm apparently doing. It's just fun to share the good times I've had with this ancient game. It may not be right for you. In fact, me recommending it at all is very irresponsible. You should stay far, far away. Run, escape from this evil addiction. Hey, I can quit anytime I want, okay? And, well, I do, for several months or years at a time if I either get busy or lose interest. But I know there'll be plenty to do when I inevitably return. You can check out, but you can never leave. If I couldn't balance it with being a functioning human being, I think that's when a vice becomes an addiction. It's just fun to be a part of something that's existed for so long, and that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Well, thanks for hanging out to listen to this tale of a lifetime of RuneScape, even though it's completely unrelated to this channel's usual topics. But even if it only interests a few people, it's a fun thing to talk about, and it's a widespread enough game that I know plenty of people can relate to it. Even if you never played, there's a good chance you've heard of it or knew someone who did. If not, now you have. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing. It was always funny seeing the occasional comment when maybe I'm talking about a mastery camo or weapon XP being hard, and I'll see, you think this is a hard grind, you should try playing RuneScape. I mean, not really the same when you're comparing to a grind length in a game with a 1-year lifespan. But yeah, don't worry, I know all about it. I mean, with how much I talk about grind and completionism, of course I would dabble in this. And if the trend of how I play this game continues, I'll see you in another 15 years of the game apparently dying, but not actually dying. I'll be living in RuneScape VR with trim comp 6.2 bill XP, because I will have added 3 new skills by then. Yep, gonna be great. Until then, maybe I'll see you online. After all, you never really quit RuneScape.
It was one of the first games that held your attention, and it helped you transition when you went to a new school. You made a lot of new friends, you had that in common, and I think you just, kept it going. Didn't realize it was going to carry on for as long as it did. And yes, I was obviously looking at some point for you to find balance between the real world and the virtual one. Mm-hmm. But, I think in the end you turned out all right.
All right. Thank you. I hope so.
What kept you wanting to go back to school? I mean, you were a bright kid. You didn't really need to go to school. You're a bright kid.
Thanks. 500 IQ kid me. What happened?
Well, I don't think it goes that high, so you just lost all your IQ points. Right?
It's a joke.
Anyway, yes, I am very proud of you, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. I think that is a milestone. That
Really? That's an impressive milestone, huh?
it is.
How many hours do you think I have in the game?
Oh God, probably, I don't know, thousands.
No, take a shot.
All right, let's say, I don't know, 1,500 hours.
Ooh, 5,300.
Oh my God. I guess all the time you leave it open
Yeah.
doesn't, if you're not paying attention.
It kicks you out after 5 minutes of inactivity, but very multitaskable.
I hope you're getting outside still.
Yeah, I go outside
That's good.
for 5 minutes at a time.
That's what I mean about balance. The part where you restored it. I remember that part.
I didn't know I shared that, yeah. I must have brought it up to try to get a reaction out of you. Oh no.
I think what I wasn't expecting was that you then carried on for another several years.
Yep.
And here we are at this momentous occasion.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I am very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thanks. I love you, Mom.
I love you too.
Aw.